Okay. Let's see how this goes. Okay, so I'm live on Instagram, I'm live on TikTok, and I have to say that my StreamYard is being a little weird, so I don't know if you can see me on Facebook and LinkedIn, and it's not showing me there, so hopefully you will be able to see me. Oh, there I am. No, I don't know whether you'll be able to see me or not, but anyway, something tells me this was maybe not the best idea to have the background up. TikTok. Well, what? TikTok violation? I don't know. If it... All right, let's end the TikTok. I don't know what's going on there. All right, that is done. Not having TikTok today. Let me get that out of the way. And I don't know what's going on with this background, so hopefully you can see me on Facebook and other places. Anyway, that's what happens when you experiment with technology. And if you're looking for a magic bullet, which is what this is about, it can get you into trouble. So if you are watching me live on Facebook or one of the other places, then I would love it if you would tell me whether you can see me, because StreamYard is giving me some action here. So I don't know whether you can see me or not. I suppose I could check, couldn't I? So hold on, I am just going to check and see what I look like on, say, Facebook, just as an example. See if I'm live there properly. So my apologies for being so slow here, but all right, this little phone is not helping me right now. Anyway, it's fine. I'm going to talk. If you can't see me, then drop me a message if you're just seeing a black screen. But I hope you can hear me. And hold on, let me see if I can. No, I am there. Well, what do you know? Just because StreamYard isn't showing itself to me, I appear to be okay on Facebook. So I'm just going to go with that and hope for the best. I'm kind of not in the middle for Instagram. My apologies. But anyway, I want to talk about looking for a magic bullet, because that seems to be something that a lot of people are doing. And I was just struck in various contexts, mostly healthcare, but really everywhere. People just want one simple thing that's easy to understand, and maybe you only have to implement it once, and then all your problems will be solved. And unfortunately, life doesn't really work like that. For example, if you're talking about healthcare, for example, supervised consumption sites, they have them in various places in Canada, but not in Manitoba, because our government doesn't want to do that for ideological reasons. And the premier said something very interesting. Maybe it was the health minister. Who knows? They're a two-headed monster. One of them said that, people think that safe consumption sites are a panacea. And I was really struck by that, because nobody says that safe consumption sites are a panacea. People still need to get treatment. Addiction is a problem. But the thing is that right now people are dying of accidental overdoses because the drug supply is tainted. And that is well known. But if you can't have somewhere where people can check their drugs and make sure they're not got fentanyl in them when you think you're consuming something a little less drastic than that, then it will save people's lives. But I was just struck by this claim that, people think that is a panacea. And the same discussion is happening in the context of, for example, masks and vaccines. When people are not used to seeing science in action, and I think that's a big deal there, because when you have people think that, well, scientists just figure stuff out and that's how it is. And what happened with the pandemic is that people got to see science actually in action and scientists in action and how things evolve and change. And they found that very uncomfortable because people are used to scientists just knowing things. And the fact is that the way science is made is that people just have to figure stuff out. And scientists have to figure stuff out just like anybody else. And so when the vaccines first came out, and especially before Omicron showed up, when it was just Delta, which was a much less, it was more deadly, but it was less infectious version of COVID-19, then people thought that if you were fully vaccinated, you were less likely to transmit the virus to other people. And then we're like, oh yeah, we don't need to mask anymore because we're vaccinated. And then what happened is that Omicron showed up, and with Omicron, people who are fully vaccinated can still transmit the virus to other people. And because it is not a panacea, what it does is that it can reduce how badly you get it when you get it. And people had the idea that, well, it was like this magic bullet. And once you had this thing, then you were completely immune, you were magically protected, and you would never get it, and you could never spread it. And that's not how viruses work. If that were true, we wouldn't need to get the flu shot every year. Now, vaccines are amazing. Vaccines are life-saving. I just finished listening to a book by Peter Hotez, who is an amazing virologist, vaccine creator, who has served as a science envoy for the United States, and is really has done wonderful things in vaccine diplomacy and so on. And vaccines are amazing, especially if you're talking about measles or cholera or whatever it is things that he's working on. Poor people die more than rich people because they get preventable diseases that are largely caused by poverty and crowding. And the thing is that with vaccines, you can certainly reduce the deaths, you can reduce the misery of communicable diseases. And it's the same is true with everyone, whether it's RSV that we're dealing with now that we actually don't have a vaccine for right now, and the flu and COVID-19. If you're fully vaccinated, you are less likely to die. Most of the deaths that have happened in North America and Europe have been in unvaccinated people, including children, until quite recently. And of course, our governments, in their infinite wisdom, have chosen to let COVID-19 rampage through the schools and the community. And it's quite shocking to discover that over 80% of children in BC have been infected with COVID-19. It's I think the people responsible for public health in British Columbia should probably find themselves facing some really difficult questions. But the same is true in other provinces. When you have an NDP government, you would expect them to be a little more concerned with the public welfare, but maybe not. Maybe that's not how it works in British Columbia. I don't know. I don't live there. I live in Manitoba, where we have a conservative government. So, you expect them to care more about businesses than about people. But anyway, back to the idea of the silver bullet. And people, or magic bullet. Here's the thing is that people like to simplify things. And it is in fact true that very often the simpler answer is going to be correct in many questions. That's what they call Occam's razor, is that, when you have various possible reasons for something, chances are that the simpler one is going to be, at very least, the most likely. However, complexities do exist. And it is the case that if you are trying to protect against a highly infectious um, disease, and it doesn't matter whether it's COVID-19 or RSV or even flu. I mean, flu kills people every year. And this year it's really doing a number on little kids, which is terrible. And if you have to have multiple layers of protection, and that is kind of the problem here, is that people are not kind of willing to see that multiple layers of protection are required. You need to be vaccinated, and you need to wear a mask, and you need to keep some distance, and you need to stay home if you're sick. And I mean, my family got COVID when we were in British Columbia last summer, and it had to do with our getting a little too comfortable and not masking as well as we might have. And somebody was in the common room of the hotel where we were staying, coughing her guts out, and we got it from her, and so much fun, and we all had it. We brought it home with us, and the thing is that people, I understand that people get fatigued. People want to get back to normal, whatever that might be. Normal might have been not have been so great, to be honest. There are some things which shouldn't come back. I think that things like hybrid work and so on need to stay. There are a lot of accommodations that disabled people have been asking for, and they could never get them. And all of a sudden, everybody got them, and now they want to take them away. But I mean, you can argue that there are some things that developed during the pandemic that really should stick around because they make life better for people. And wanting to have a better life is kind of what we're about, isn't it? And the issue is, I think, really, is how much discomfort people are willing to undergo in order to help other people. And the problem is that when you have a catastrophe like a pandemic, you might be seeing the best of the community, and you might also be seeing the worst. Because on the one hand, certainly in the beginning, people coming together, do you remember healthcare heroes and banging the pots and pans and all of that, and people putting up signs in their windows, and it was so awesome, and serenading each other, and it was amazing. And then a couple of years later, you have governments that are trying to cut back the pay of those same healthcare heroes, and you get people getting burned out and leaving the field because they just can't handle the overload anymore. And here we have another one. It's fall, and the children's hospitals in various provinces and in the United States are on their knees because they're just overloaded with sick kids. And, they're sending, 14-year-olds to adult ICUs because there's no room in the pediatric ones. And people won't wear a mask. And it comes back to this idea of if something doesn't help 100% in all cases, then it doesn't help at all. This kind of binary black and white thinking is very childish. Okay, this is how young kids think. It's either yes or no. And part of being a grown-up is supposed to be developing the ability to have some sort of nuance in your thinking, to be able to see the gray zones, to be able to maybe have some empathy and compassion to people you disagree with, for example, or maybe being willing to inconvenience yourself, and maybe also understanding that there are no magic bullets, that you have to layer mitigations. And if you take what they did basically last spring is they took everything away. Boom. It's not that they were like, okay, we can relax some mitigations. They did that here in Manitoba. First, they started relaxing. Thank you. First, they started relaxing some of the restrictions, and then you didn't need to be vaccinated to go to some places, and so on. And then the last thing, like in March, it was like within 10 days, it was like boom, 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 take away the vaccine passport, take away the masks, and that's it. Everything's gone. We're back to normal. Let's pretend nothing has happened. And there's a lot of people who still have a lot of trauma from losing loved ones, from, you know, from just, it was a hard time. It was a hard time for everybody. And I completely understand that people want to pretend that it's over, that people really want to be like, oh, you know what? It's fine. We're just going to be back to normal. And we have to have the tools for that. I have a little CO2 meter that I take places with me. For example, in my gym, the ventilation is amazing. And so I am comfortable working out without a mask because my little meter basically tells me that the CO2 around me is basically just me. Like I am not breathing other people's air. And we went to a restaurant and it was insanely high. And we told the manager, he was a little shocked. He turned up the ventilation. But you know what? We put on our masks while we weren't eating, and you have to make assessments of risk, and we did. It was important for us to go out and celebrate my daughter's birthday and a few other wonderful things that happened that week. So we did stay in the restaurant, but I will admit, it was better when we could sit outside, and now we can't. So it's always a matter of risk assessment and taking my little meter with me, and if it's too bad, then maybe I won't stay there. And that is just how we need to have our new life. And it's all a matter of levels of mitigation. But people have to understand that you cannot have public health completely dependent only on the goodwill of individuals and the responsibility of individuals. You can't say, well, if you're at risk, then feel free to mask. And if you have, family members who are at risk, then, feel free to mask. But why would you want everybody to mask? Because it's about levels of mitigation. And when more people are masking, when more people are wearing N95s rather than those flimsy little blue things, but those blue things are better than nothing. So it's better to have a well-fitting N95 mask. It's better than a blue thing. A blue floppy is better than nothing. And if you're coughing, if you're sick, stay home. It's not that hard. And I realize that that's part of the societal thing. I do understand that it is a real privilege to be able to stay home if you're sick or if your child is sick. And a lot of people can't afford to, especially in the United States. I mean, it's bad enough in Canada, but it's even worse in the United States. And people have no sick leave. People have no ability to not go out and infect the whole world. And then people wonder why it doesn't go away. It's because the society is not built for humans. Society is built for humans to be factory widgets, basically, is what it amounts to. And don't get me started on capitalism right now. And I'm a business owner myself. I am totally in favor of buying and selling things. I am not in favor of exploiting humans. So to come back to the whole idea of the magic bullet, it doesn't exist. You have to have layers of mitigation, and that requires a level of maturity and a level of compassion and maybe altruism to maybe nobody likes wearing a mask. I mean, can we be clear about this? Nobody likes wearing masks. The thing is that how many people are too selfish to inconvenience themselves in order to allow other people to participate in life? People who are immunocompromised, people who are disabled, who are basically stuck at home because other people can't be bothered to mitigate for them. That's basically what it amounts to. And it's a society that gives a big FU to anyone who's in any way not, cis, white, abled, all of those things. If you're not one of those things, then basically you don't matter. And nobody cares if you die. And it's not fun to hear. It's not fun to be on the receiving end. It's not fun to be having it made clear to people that that is in fact what they're saying to people, because people don't want to think of themselves as somebody who acts like that. People want to think of themselves as being good and kind and compassionate. And it's painful to have it pointed out that actually they're behaving in a really selfish and entitled way. Nobody likes hearing that. And so people aren't listening. So as someone who passes as a white person, I have a level of privilege that I can actually go out and say things that somebody else maybe couldn't. And so I do. And so just to conclude here, and do please let me know if you're watching this live or in the replay. Let me know what you think of this. And there is no magic bullet. People look for a magic bullet, but there is no magic bullet. The vaccines are not a magic bullet. The masks are not a universal panacea. Neither are supervised consumption sites. There are no universal panaceas. What there are levels of mitigation of harm. And that's all the best we can do. We're all humans. People are going to harm each other. There's going to be harm. The question is, what can we do to mitigate it, to make it less bad? That's the most we can hope for, really, I think. But we've got to give it a try. We can't just go through our lives like this and pretend that we don't see what's going on. We just can't, because we do see. And if at some point, if we refuse to see, then we are complicit. And that's painful. It's painful to be complicit. It really is. So I can understand that people don't want to hear it. But the fact that doesn't make it any less true. And so we need to take the levels of mitigation. We need to consider risk for ourselves, for other people. Just like, there's doors should be wide enough for wheelchairs. Air should be clean enough for everyone to breathe without getting sick. So I'm going to wind this up now. And if you've been listening, thank you so much. Drop me a message, say hello, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye. And now, and broadcast.